Yes.
Okay, so
Just a question.
yes.
On the minute, I had a call from a member of the public
Oh yes.
regarding minutes, and he wanted to speak.
Is it an item on the agenda that he wanted to speak about?
I think it was about the minutes he wanted to speak.
Right. Okay. Well, we can.
So,
Is he here this evening?
No, because
Fine.
I tried to. I
Right.
suppose just from my point of view, how does a member of the public actually get on and speak?
Sure.
Because he seemed a bit put out, but he'd written to you, and he'd written to...
Yes, there is no problem at all in speaking about an item on the agenda, and quite clearly if anyone would like to come and speak, a member of the public to do so, then they're obviously free to do so. If they have a specific issue they'd like to raise and it's an operational one, then quite clear there are other channels that comes through. So it's not a general inquiries discussion point, it has to be related to the specifically on the agenda.
But how, the question I think on there is,
Yes.
how do they go about doing that?
Okay, connecting with Democratic Support Services. Yes, they can write into Democratic Support Services on the email. The details are on the website.
They didn't, they wrote to you.
No, but in terms of the appearing here this evening and asking a question or talking about an item on the agenda, that's the way to connect. I get many inquiries from different members of the public, and I do route them through to heads of service and quite clearly to the right department that needs to deal with their specific elements. I'm going to take a question from Sue.
Thank you. I believe this resident did do his absolute best because he did write to or submit to Democratic Services on the 6th of March. Now that gives a fair and reasonable time, I think, to try and get this particular resident in to see us and of course to speak fairly, and he wanted, because he had some questions to ask about the local transport plan, which I think is fair and representative of our residents. However, he met a couple of hurdles, and I will use the word hurdles because I think that's a fair use of the word, because he implied to myself, and I believe he's spoken to a couple of other councillors today, that it was implied that it might not be the best time or place for him to come. And I just think that possibly we might need to look at this. Now, the reason he wanted to come at that point was very specific. He did not want the local plan to go through without these particular questions that he had being raised. Now, obviously for him, that has now gone through at full council without these questions being raised. Now, as far as we're concerned, when it comes to any kind of formality, we have, as a council, made a great deal out of residents being able to come at 6 o'clock, which he was happy to do so, about residents applying to do so. So I think if we can ask, I think all of us here, if Democratic Services and yourself can go back and make that resident aware of how and when he can then come back and speak on the particular subject that he has asked to originally, I would be very grateful.
If it might help, Sue, I know that there's been an individual who has been contacting members of the committee this evening, and that particular individual, in fact, who I specifically directed, was able to address full council. In fact, I gave him details of full council, because quite clearly the local transport plan was and has gone through. It has been fully consulted, as we know, and clearly it was a full council element at the last point. So there's nothing further that we could do, obviously, on that basis, and he had some specific operational matters, so some highways issues and some concerns over contracts, things that we can't deal with here, which I then directed him through to the right channels. But happy to talk, we'll review that matter certainly following the meeting tonight.
If I may, if
yes.
I can come back on that. But this particular resident asked in good time and should have been able to come here and should have been able to raise his particular questions before it went to the full council. And in that way, he has not been able to, as a resident, highlight something that may well have been helpful to us, in fact, because we can miss things, and we know we can.
Okay, so just to confirm, the local transport plan had already gone through our circuit, if you like, from that point of view. There was never an approach that I've had prior to that taking place here at our scrutiny panel. So there was no approach ahead of the local transport plan being scrutinised. Following that, yes, there have been many questions asked, but certainly nothing in terms of any of the matters on the agenda tonight. But Stuart, you wanted to raise something?
Well, I think two aspects to that, and again, I will have a look at the request to see what is said, so I'm happy to do that. Obviously, we've got scrutiny first, Cabinet, and then full council. Public are welcome to speak at each and every one of those, so there are 3 opportunities. Local transport plan sets out a direction of travel. There will be lots of further work done to look at specific projects, look at the mechanisms for delivery, etc. So what I would say, let me have a look at the request and see if there is a conversation where we can actually pick those up in the next stage. But it is very clear on the website the opportunities to do that. Now, to come tonight, now I may have got mixed up in terms of the request, to talk about minutes, that's not the role of, the minutes is an accurate record of the meeting. It's not there to open up debate. Sorry, I know I'm telling you what you already know there. So it's about getting an appropriate discussion to move that through. But sorry, let me take that back. Let me have a review of that. I'll see what the issues are and to see whether there is a milestone coming forward which would be appropriate to then pick up those issues, if that's okay.
And if I can, and that is the reason why the resident is not here now.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you all. Okay.
What's this? Oh, is it?
One of his complaints to me was he had no response from anybody in writing. So
Okay. Well, I can.
think someone should have.
Okay. If we talk about the same person, I can absolutely guarantee I can share my emails without any problems at all, as I have responded several times. Yes, directly, and I have also copied in the heads of service together with Democratic Support Service, so they are fully aware, and that's absolutely accurate. I have no qualms about that. Okay, so Alison, last point on that, and then we'll
That's
move
the
on.
last point. I received, in fact, a phone call from this gentleman this afternoon. And I think he's been very busy. He was obviously agitated. By the time we'd finished, he'd screamed at me. So I told him that he could either tone down his conversation or I just put down the phone. He toned down the conversation. He was obviously frustrated. I could understand his frustration. Maybe it's an example to all of us for the future, and Stuart can handle it appropriately.
Thank you, Alison. Okay, so am I okay to go ahead and sign the minutes as being true and accurate record of our last meeting?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Sue. Thank you all. Lovely.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Sue.
That's fine. Sorry. I don't know what you were going to say.
Lovely. That's for you. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so item number 5. We have Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee Draft Annual Report, pages 11 to 18. And it's within the papers tonight, item 5. Any comments at all? I know we've discussed it and you've had the opportunity to look through. I certainly would like to thank the entirety of the committee who aren't always able to be present at the meetings, but I have to say that it has been a very busy year, and just drawing out some of the areas from that. First of all, the Voice Scooters review, and thank you, Alison, for chairing that so admirably.
Pleasure.
And the content from all that went into it. I have to say, within 6 weeks, there was an incredibly intense period there with the largest number of responses that anyone has ever, I think, handled at the council, including the budget coming through in terms of the public consultation element there, so it's really good indeed. We can see, obviously, that we've had a couple of members who've joined and left during the year for different reasons, but again, the thanks go there for their considerable input throughout, and particularly on the pre-briefings and the working groups. Task and finish is quite clearly the detailed structure in terms of taking those matters away. As we know, this is a flavour of the work that's carried out in the Place Directorate and across the Council, and we have considerable number of projects and the overview of what we have here, particularly on economic strategy, resource and waste strategy action plans, highways and transport contract oversight group. Thank you, Tony, for the hard work that goes into that as well. Sincerely appreciate that. And all the officers behind the scenes as well. And Stuart, I'd like to pass on my thanks, if you could take that back, for the considerable and very quick responses, frankly, that come through from officers in terms of the questions that we all ask. And I have to say we've had some very good officer turnout at all meetings supporting the agendas on the items on the agenda. And I have to say that Marina and Tracy, you've been managing to record those all the way along, so well done, because that's been a considerable amount of work to ensure that we've been keeping up to date. Now, we've also got the work plan we'll come to shortly, but are we all happy with the report as is? William, thank you.
Tiny thing to say, and it's not a criticism at all. I recall from the discussion on the voice scooters issue and the voice scooters report that there was criticism that we should have taken longer and written a better report. I'd just like to say, every report I've ever been involved with, we wish we'd had more time. And we probably could have wordsmithed it a bit more. But the point is, I think we got the right answer, and that is what matters.
Yeah, well said, William. And I have to say quite clearly we had a time restriction there where we were really getting the whole of the structure of Cabinet and Council together as well, because we had to make recommendations through to Cabinet that required the process-driven timings to be as they were. But thank you, well-laboured points. Carl.
Thank you. I just really wanted to say thank you. Thank you for chairing it and the officers for attending. It's been a very interesting year, so thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Well done, and thank you for your contribution to the committee. And I know that it was a bit of a steep learning curve when you joined. It was right in the middle of everything, but well done. And obviously those members who are not able to be here today, we extend our thanks to them as well.
I think we need to go back.
Just want to use a microphone, Tony. Sorry.
Probably need to go back to 4 years, Andre. It's not just
Absolutely.
last year.
It's the fourth year.
Because it's the term of the council as well. And we've covered some very interesting topics, going right back to the very first one, which was trees.
Yes,
and tree policy, which had a lot of effort put into it, which then drifted into active travel, not from trees, but into active travel, and probably slightly disappointed that we are not where I would have hoped we would have been with active travel. But then that was all semi-delayed due to the local transport plan not being in place, which obviously is the bigger part of the tree, which would then drop down to active travel, which then drops down to the LC whips. So the LC whips have been sitting there almost 3 years now, but not activated because the rest of the policy wasn't in place. So it's good to see it all come together now. It's ready for the next administration to move forward.
That's very true. You've highlighted the point, of course, that we've been running for 4 years, absolutely the term of the council, and it has to be said also that in terms of the element of the coverage of work, that and there's a suite of documents quite clear that we all interlink with, and quite clear that the structure of council in terms of the working groups that we've had, the effectiveness of those, and also scrutiny, but particularly also then go through the cabinet and full council. So there's been good public opportunity there to engage at all those elements, and I have to say that the work that's involved, this overview and scrutiny report we have here today is quite clearly an overview of what we have. But it's the annual report that we have to produce, obviously, on a basis, and this will be going down the journey of going on to full council. Okay, thank you very much indeed then for your help and support, and we'll take that as passed and accepted and onwards to full council then. Thank you, Tracy. Item 6 is a review of the committee work plan. This is the work plan which we've been having a look at and has been updated, and will obviously go on to the next term of full council. and the new committee starting from there. Clearly, we're all aware of the Scrutiny Committee's rearrangement, or the new plan, the refresh of scrutiny within the Council, and quite clearly it's for the new Council to set direction and update as they see fit. But these are work areas, topics have been identified for closer look and closer work on those. Anyone would like to raise a point on those, please feel free. I think we've they're right up to date, aren't they now, Tracy?
Yes, they are.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Super.
Andre,
Oh, sorry, Carl and then Tony.
Yep. Sorry, yeah, just for sort of clarification, really. The highways contract, there's obviously a subcommittee with Tony. Does highways contracts ever come back to place scrutiny to be looked at on its own, or are you relying on the subcommittee all the time?
Well, it does, as we call it back, absolutely, on a yearly basis, annual basis for reviews, definitely. And if we have any interim thoughts, actions identified, then obviously we'll follow those through. Have you got a particular one?
No, it was just the Kia contract in particular that doesn't seem to be on the future works. If we want it on there, I presume then we put a form in and with a rationale behind it.
Yes, I mean, and in reality, of course, it's a massive contract, so we couldn't review the entire contract.
Of course not, no. But
in any way at all.
If there are certain elements of it.
If there are elements of it, absolutely, then we could definitely review those points and we could certainly look at those, definitely.
Okay, all right, no, thank you.
Yeah, but obviously to recommend to the next committee. Tony.
well, just picking up what Carl's saying, the active travel, for instance, was a task and finish group. So we did something, we reported, job completed. We purposely didn't call the contract task and finish, because what we saw in it and what was agreed was every 6 months we would have a get-together with the oversight group, and then we would report back. And if there was anything significant, we would then pull it apart through place. So, as I say, it wasn't a task and finish, it was left open every 6 months. What we do in the next administration, I don't know. That's up to the next administration to decide, but that's the way it was done. Okay. Andre, I'm not sure whether we can bring it in here, but going back to the active travel, because I think it's worth reporting on this, some of us went to Coventry recently just to take a look at what they've done there. And it was actually fascinating, because they did something relatively small which had a major impact on the city. And what they did was to force the traffic onto the ring road. And how did they do it? They dismantled 2 major road junctions in the centre and just tarmacked it over. And drivers said, we ain't going to come. They stayed on the ring road. And we were able to walk around the centre of Coventry on the tarmac streets without worrying too much. It was as simple as that. Now, they had a lot of iterations to get there, because those of you remember Coventry back in the late 50s, maybe that excludes quite a few people in this room, that centre of Coventry was totally devastated by the war, but they rebuilt it with the first ring road and called it a motor city. The ring road turned out not to be big enough, and they moved it further out. So they've had a number of iterations of trying to get Coventry right. But this last iteration, which was driven by the portfolio holder for economic development, took the decision just to dismantle the road junctions. So we came back and said, which ones in Northampton could we dismantle and force it all onto the ring road? I'll leave it like that, but that was, I thought it was worth mentioning their strategy, and it's worked.
It's amazing what can be achieved, isn't it? Definitely. And looking carefully at neighbouring authorities or neighbouring towns and cities is an important learning curve as well. I know we've certainly compared quite a few areas like that before we've engaged in major works and projects in Northamptonshire and certainly West Northamptonshire, looking at very detailed areas there. Some of the projects that were obviously put together in some areas at the pre-meeting in terms of update to inclusion here, update asset strategy for committee next year, the item on national highways and the active travel item to include pedestrian safety and LC whip. So that was something we discussed and they are within the plan to go forward. Now, obviously, Sue, did you have a question you'd like to raise? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Baggott-Webb was discussing the task and finish. It's my experience that the task is finished and we would move into a new era in a new council, whether we are here or not. But that's my experience for task and finish. Obviously, that doesn't negate anybody with experience joining a new task and finish. I agree with Carl over there regarding possibility of looking not necessarily at Keir in one sense, but another. We are, I'm trying to delicately put this, experiencing a high volume of questions regarding certain customer aspects of what Keir is doing currently, and that's quite fair from the point of residents. And so I do wonder whether it would be a good idea to bring that back and review them with the keen eye of Stuart over there, because I think that shows good value for money and that we're listening to our residents. But yes, I do agree with the other planned things that you've brought forward and suggestions.
Okay, thank you very much, Sue. Good point to raise. Alison, did you want to?
No, I was listening.
That's fine.
I've
Okay,
got
no
some
problem.
thoughts, but we
Lovely.
won't put them on
Okay,
the
no
table
problem.
yet.
Any other questions or ideas or thoughts or no points? Thank you very much indeed. Lovely. Okay, in that case, would we be happy to accept the list of items for future scrutiny and going forward, obviously for recommendations to the new scrutiny committee? Thank you very much indeed. Okay, Alison.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
After the last meeting, you and I had a discussion because integrated care or the LAPs go out the window. And I think the subject matter needs to be looked at again. I did actually write to one or two people, I believe Tracy,
Yes,
but I don't know that I had a reply. And I would still echo that if it was possible to follow up in the future on that subject matter of what happens after the lapse. I know it's the hubs, but I think...
So the health and well-being element?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
It should be looked
Yeah,
at.
which is correct. No.
Thank you,
Yeah.
or raised.
Lovely. Yeah, that has been noted definitely for inclusion from recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Super. Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for accepting those and for recommendations to the next committee. I'd like to thank you all for your hard work. Urgent business. Have we been notified of any urgent business at all? No. Thank you very much indeed. Nothing for you, Marina, at all? Thank you. Stuart, anything from you at all, sir? Urgent matters at all? Thank you. In that case, I'd like to thank you all for attending today and declare the meeting closed.